Hi everybody, it's Christopher and welcome to Life's Not Over, It Just Looks Different on YouTube. In a video a couple of weeks ago, I talked about vision loss terminology, and in that video I mentioned that I am legally blind. And I had shared a story about talking to a lady who, when I told her I was legally blind, was a bit taken aback and said, "But you can see." So I thought I'd expand a little bit more on that today, what legally blind means, and also talk about what I would consider a spectrum of vision loss, because just like there's a spectrum for other conditions like autism spectrum disorder, vision loss is basically a spectrum, because there's everything from people who have that so-called perfect 20/20 vision to people who are completely blind. And there's a lot of space and a lot of people who fall in between, because the actual population of people who are blind, who see absolutely nothing, is less than 10% of the population. So let's expand on that a little bit. So 20/20, that's considered perfect vision or normal vision. And that second number, as it gets higher, it means that your doctor is diagnosing you with declining vision. In Alberta, where I live now, and in other provinces that I've lived in order to have a driver's license, you have to have a visual acuity no worse than 20/50. So what does the 20/50 mean? It means that somebody who has quote-unquote perfect vision or normal vision can see an object clearly from 50 feet away, whereas the person who's been diagnosed with 20/50 can only see that object clearly from 20 feet away. They have to be 30 feet closer. Again, in Alberta, you are diagnosed or considered low vision if you have a diagnosis of 20/70 in your better eye. And I say in your better eye because the two eyes can be different. They can measure differently. But 20/70 is where we start to define people as low vision. And then when you get to 20/200, so that second number getting higher still, 20/200 is considered legally blind. And from the research that I've done, that's a term that is pretty much universal around the world. The World Health Organization recognizes it, and it's pretty much the standard for legal blindness in anywhere that I've been reading about. The other thing that can define a person as legally blind, aside from the acuity, that 20/200, is your field of vision, so the amount of vision that you're able to see. And legally blind can also be a visual field of less than 20 degrees of vision. The last time that I was at the eye doctor, he measured both of my eyes. I'm about 30% vision in each one. When you put the two together and they get to work together and I can look all around using both of them, I feel like my visual field is much wider, but when it gets tested, there's only about 30% left in each eye. These numbers, like 20/20, 20/50, 20/70, 20/200, when it comes to measuring vision, and even that number getting higher, these numbers become very important because it can determine whether or not a person qualifies for certain government benefits or state benefits or that sort of thing. And it's all driven by the eye doctor giving the measurement, doing the testing, giving the measurement, and then whoever the benefit provider is or whoever's going to test whether or not you're able to qualify for certain things. Like in Alberta, you can qualify for things when you're low vision at 20/70, and then you can qualify for different things or more things when you're considered legally blind at 20/200. But all of that comes from the eye doctor. And so those numbers can become really important to determine whether or not a person can get devices and access to programs that can help them have a better quality of life. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky for kids and adults with CVI, cortical visual impairment. Because we might, and I've heard this not in kids that I've worked with or adults that I've spoken to, but when I was at a presentation done by Dr. Christine Roman Lancy, she was mentioning that some kids can go into an eye doctor's office and test as 20/20 on an eye chart, but then they walk out of the office and they can't get across the street safely because their functional vision, the actual vision that they're using to live and see and get around the world, is not helping them. They're actually legally blind functionally. But if they test well on an eye chart, they can miss out on the benefits because it's all driven by those numbers. So this is why something that I'm advocating for, and I think many others are as well, is we need to change that definition of legal blindness, because we need to incorporate the functional vision aspect for people with CVI. Because one of the things that kids and adults with CVI, well, adults are a little different because they have the benefit of visual memory to recognize the shape of letters and things, so they might be able to make out certain things. But for kids with CVI who were born with it, they're taught to recognize the salient features of letters. Well, if you teach a child the salient features of letters and then they go into the eye doctor's office and they recognize a letter by its shape, it doesn't mean that they've actually seen the letter. It means that they've recognized what they're seeing by its shape, and maybe they guessed right. But guessing right can put them into a category that disqualifies them for benefits and other things that they need in order to have a good quality of life, whether it be O&M training, orientational mobility, whether it's independent living skills training, or some of these other things, these other programs that are available to people with sight loss and kids with sight loss. If the numbers don't really tell the whole story, that person is going to be denied things that might give them a better quality of life. And that's a real problem that I'm hoping is going to be addressed sooner rather than later. So I would very much like to see the definition of legal blindness expanded to find some way of incorporating functional vision into that testing. Just before I wrap up this video today, there's one thing I want to recommend to anybody who's watching this video is please get your eyes checked. If not once a year, every couple of years, get your eyes checked. If you feel pain or if something's not right, go in and get them checked, because your eyesight is really important. Until you're in a boat like mine or like other people in the spectrum of vision loss, you don't necessarily realize just how much your eyes have an effect on the things that you get to do and enjoy in your day-to-day life. It doesn't mean you can't enjoy life without sight, but it's definitely going to change things. So I do recommend getting your eyes checked. If anything feels not right, go get it checked, because the faster you're on it, the faster the doctor can do something about it, slow it down, maybe give you some drops, give you some medication, do something to help take that problem away and get you back to hopefully normal vision. That's everything I wanted to share in today's video. I really do thank each and every one of you who watches these videos. Thank you so much for doing so. To those of you who have subscribed to the channel, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that as well. And if you like the content in these videos, please click like down below and let YouTube know that you like the video so that they'll share it with others as well. Thanks very much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.